The discussion around climate change is not a new one. So why Greta Thunberg and why now? In this video, we'll talk through that question and the rise of social movements, and we'll also talk about what everyday people can be doing to make an impact on the climate crisis now. By now, most people have heard of or seen Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old climate activist who, in just a year, has rallied young people and people of all ages across the world to rise up to take action against climate change. But she isn't the first, nor will she be the last person to raise her voice on this important issue. So why has she become the face of the movement and been able to inspire so many to action where before it has seemed like progress had been moving so slowly?
In many social movements, we see one person become the face of the movement, even though many people and groups play a huge role in driving the movement forward. The reason? The people who become faces of a movement are courageous, bold, and compassionate to be sure, but sometimes other factors are at play that cause their face to be the one for the movement instead of the other courageous, bold, and compassionate people who have been working for change also. Two factors in particular shape who may be accepted as the face of a movement. The first is right time and right place. Sometimes the world is just ready to hear that particular person in that moment in history, when other pieces have lined up to create the perfect timing for their message. The second is that it's just easier to digest one person's story. As humans, we look to simplify complex matters through symbols and stories. Honing in on one person as the symbol of a complex movement is just easier, especially when we can see parts of ourselves in that person too.
This month, an article in Psychology Today by Zoe Well, the co-founder and president of the Institute for Humane Education, took a look at this very question so that we could understand why Greta Thunberg has become the face of this movement and to understand how we can inspire others to rise up and raise their voices too. Zoe Well had been teaching people, young people specifically, for the past 30 years how to be activists, especially on issues affecting the environment and human rights. She had seen many others with the intelligence and the talent similar to Greta and had seen them work very hard on these issues as well. So she had some really great insights on why Greta might be taking the world by storm, so to speak, as she has been. One of the most interesting insights that Zoe Well had about Greta was her artlessness, as Zoe Well put it. And what this means is that Greta has no desire for fame. She doesn't desire to be an icon, as Zoe's article explained. In a world where so many of us are social media and status obsessed, Greta is only using her social media to promote her message, her cause. She doesn't seem to care about getting a lot of attention except for when it relates to her cause. So that level of integrity has been really inspiring to a lot of people. Part of this integrity that Zoe talks about in her article is that Greta isn't claiming to be an expert on this topic. She is instead just asking people to listen to the science and to heed the science. And she's asking leaders and professionals and scientists with greater expertise than she has to come up with these innovative solutions, because humanity is capable of them and there's no reason that we shouldn't be on top of it. Another great insight that Zoe's article laid out is that Greta doesn't seem to be on any kind of political side. Her only agenda is the healing and protection of the environment. And while we know that certain issues tend to fall on certain political sides, by sticking with the message and the mission that the earth is for all and that we all need to play a role in protecting it, there is the great potential to rally people from across the sides to do something, to take action towards this issue. Another unique characteristic that Zoe's article pointed out about Greta is her Asperger's. This is a characteristic that some have felt has been a weakness in years past, but by turning it into a strength, she is showing her vulnerability and she is showing her honesty and her ability to stand up for something despite what some feel could be an obstacle or a challenge. Finally, Zoe's article draws attention to Greta's integrity in that she lives what she preaches. So refusing to fly, not eating meat, these are the things that she is asking others to do, and she lives the message that she is asking others to heed. It is sometimes pretty difficult to live in a way that aligns with your principles in a world so interested in convenience and comfort, that being able to live in a way that aligns with your principles really demonstrates a commitment to them. And I think a lot of people are drawn to that and find that very appealing in a world, as Greta says, this feels so shallow and meaningless sometimes. I want to add a couple of my own personal insights to this conversation as well. One of the reasons I think the world is so receptive to Greta's message now is that in this world of rampant social media, we are finally getting used to seeing young people lead and take action on important issues, even though they've been doing so for a very long time. Now we can finally see it. It's in front of us regularly, and we're becoming used to it. While social media can lead to feelings of disconnection, when you use it for a cause, for a message with integrity, it can be a great tool at affecting social change. Finally, in a world that is so focused on choosing your words carefully so that you don't scare or offend people, Greta seems unconcerned with either of those things, and it's working to her benefit. While some may be calling her message inciting hysteria, many are seeing that the urgency in her words has truth to it, and that her anger and her rage on these issues is just the honest feelings that are coming out after decades of inaction on an issue that's going to affect her generation very much. Greta is not worried about inspiring people, she's just worried about telling people the truth, even if it's hard to hear. And I think a lot of people are sick of being talked down to, being condescended, being given sugar-coated messages, and there's something refreshing and galvanizing about that harsh truth. But I want to get into what can we as individuals be doing to act on this message that Greta is trying to spread. Greta focuses her messaging a lot towards policymakers and leaders, which can sometimes feel like everyday people are lost as to what to do in our daily lives while we are waiting for leaders and policymakers to take meaningful action. So the first thing I want to point out is that every individual raising their voice in their own city, in their own community, to their own network of friends can make a difference. If you recall, Greta just started 1 year ago in 2018 at age 15 by herself, sitting outside of a building with a sign. That's it. And that had a ripple effect and grew from there. Not every social movement is going to take off and create the change that this one has in such a short period of time, but they're never going to get started unless we try at all. So we've got to get out there. We've got to, each of us, be raising our voices and telling our leaders what we need to make a better world. The next is to get educated. It can feel very overwhelming and confusing to know what actions we can be taking in our daily lives to affect what feels like such an enormous issue. Fortunately, other experts and other organizations have taken it upon themselves to identify what the most critical moves we can be making towards this issue are. Organizations like Project Drawdown. For example, in terms of food, our daily eating habits, Project Drawdown has identified that reducing meat consumption, composting, cooking over a clean oven, and throwing away less food are some of the most effective things we can be doing in our daily lives. That's it. Just throw away less food and reduce your meat consumption. Anybody can do that, even in small steps. In terms of transportation, driving an electric car, flying less, ordering less goods that need to be shipped very quickly. These things can have an impact on the environment as well, and each of us are capable of taking these steps, at least in small doses as a start. In our homes, switching to LED light bulbs or getting solar panels, which are becoming less expensive by the year, are really effective measures that we can each take to make an impact on our environmental footprint. Also in our homes, using water more efficiently, such as doing your laundry in cold water instead of warm, or increasing your recycling activities at home, can make a big impact too. There's a lot of work to be done, and some of it will involve policy changes and large-scale changes that we all need to be talking about and taking action on. But there are things we can be doing as everyday people in our everyday lives, from different ways to manage our food and our households and our transportation, that can be making an impact too. I really hope this video helped you out and helped you think more about social change and the rise of social movements, and also on a practical matter, how we can make a difference to this specific issue and Greta's message. Please don't forget to subscribe below, because I make weekly videos on social impact, leadership, nonprofits, and so much more. And if you're on Facebook, don't forget to join my Facebook group, Change the World or Bust. We are having great conversations in there about these topics and more, and how everyone can play a role in making an impact in the world. So please come on by and share what you've got on your mind. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you guys so much.